To learn to live the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Click the bell notification. It's all free. There's this lady that I communicate with probably once a week or so. She's a YouTuber. Her name's Living on a Dime to Grow Rich. Very good channel. I watch it every day. Every day she posts a video. She made a video that I really liked. She said the 11 things that you need for hyperinflation. Her idea was wrapped around folks who have electricity and public utilities. After this video, I would like for you to go check her video out. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to steal her idea. So thank you, Living on a Dime. But I want to talk about hyperinflation and what it is. Hyperinflation, obviously we know what inflation is. Inflation means that prices are going to go up. And normally prices just go up. I think it's like 2 or 3, 4%, whatever it is, each year. But when you start getting into rampant inflation, hyperinflation, what's happening is one of two things. One is the government has borrowed so much money and they're printing money that the dollar becomes less of a value. So something that you bought last year for $1, maybe $1.50 now because they've printed 2 times the amount of money, whatever it is. Now, if you went to the gold standard has its own value. And when we say, okay, gold is worth $1,200, but 10 years ago it was worth $800, the reason it costs more is not because gold went up in price. It's because of inflation. The dollar is worth less. The gold is still the same value that you held it to 10 years ago. So it's the dollar that makes everything go up in price. The second reason that you could have hyperinflation is all of a sudden something becomes in high demand, low supply. So let's say gas, for example. There's going to be a gas crisis here in the next 6 weeks, and so everybody goes out and fills all their tanks and all their cars and SUVs and motorcycles and everything. Go out and fill it all. Well, now there's no gas. So you have low supply, high demand, prices go up. Now, we've already seen some inflation this year. We can see the gas prices have almost went up an extra $1 in our area. As of today, of recording this video, I posted a poll on YouTube saying, are you ready for hyperinflation? And not surprising to me, 55% of the respondents said they were not prepared. And so I thought I would throw out some ideas like Living on a Dime did to help you prepare. But instead of a on-the-grid perspective, I thought we'd take a off-the-grid perspective on what you can do to prepare for hyperinflation. Now, of course, we raise our own food. We raise chickens and vegetables. So, and then we can our chickens. We also have the eggs. Now, we also have tried to stockpile as much vegetables as we can because we didn't get to garden this year. Of course, you've seen us canning our food. So we got 228 days worth of canned food here. But we intend to continuously replace the food that we consume. So that is not a storage or stockpile or a prepping item. That is something that we eat regularly. Now we have our vegetables. This is just one shelf of our vegetables that you'll see here. We got some underneath the bed. We got vegetables everywhere. We try to keep this as full as possible. We got some vegetables down at the bottom. You're not going to see them. It's too dark. We got all our coffees. But I think it's more important than to buy food, because you're going to eat it. You're going to run out. Is to make sure that you're able to replace it. If anybody has read history, you will know that the Weimar Republic, which is what used to be Germany, Weimar Republic was in the 1920s is what happened. And what they did was they printed a bunch of money. They were in debt, so in order to pay the debt, they printed money. And employers had to pay their employees by the hour, because if they didn't, the next hour, the inflation would have went up so much, what they got paid for that hour wouldn't be worth anything anymore. So they had to pay by hour. People would go into the store with wheelbarrows full of money to buy bread. So hyperinflation is a real thing, and it can happen. It has happened. Hyperinflation is something that the United States could potentially fall into because we are borrowing so much money and printing so much money. I'm not even accusing which party's doing which. Every president, Congress, since I've been alive, has borrowed tons of money and printed tons of money. The last time I looked, and this was like 20 years ago, if our national debt was all of a sudden cashed in, they wanted their money today. every man, woman, and child in the United States 20 years ago would have owed $168,000. I did the math. And I thought, my goodness, there's no way I could afford that, because it was me, my daughter, and my wife at the time. And how are you going to be able to afford, what, $500,000 all in one fatal swoop? Water is something that she pointed out, and I agree with her. Now, she talked about her Berkey. We have a Berkey also. I've used it for everything. Ours is dented up, well used, been beat around. We got a big old dent here. I dropped it one time, got a dent. And Berkey is a water purification system. It filters out everything. There's a couple viruses it can't filter out, so what you want to do is you're going to put some bleach into your water. Now, bleach can purify it on its own. You can just let the bleach evaporate out. You can boil it out. You can boil your water, that would purify it. But this makes just pure drinking water. It's wonderful. It's got 2 charcoal filters in it, 2 purification charcoal filters. You could put 4 filters in it. You can see all the muck down there at the bottom that kind of falls down. So this is something I've had for years. I've always used it. We use it as nomads. We could drink out of creeks. And we did drink out of creeks in South Dakota and Utah. So it's something that I think that you're going to have to consider. Even in modern drinking supplies that come from public utilities, that water sometimes can be a little, I don't know. I remember I lived in a little town and everybody was getting cancer. Everybody I knew had cancer. Dogs were getting big lumps on their, tumors on their sides and different things. But we weren't. Our dogs were very healthy, and of course we never got sick. But at the time we were using what's called a reverse osmosis. That's something that you can use also. It uses a lot of wastewater, and the filters are pretty expensive. Whereas the Berkey, the filters last 6 years. I do have a backup set of filters. Anytime I use a filter, I go ahead and buy a backup. And they tested that water every year, and every year they'd send out a little notice saying, okay, the water's perfectly fine. Medical. I've talked about medical before, and Living on a Dime talked about make sure you got over to the counter stuff. You want to make sure you got your Tylenols and Band-Aids and burn medicines, aloe, those kinds of things, and that's all very important, and we do have those things. But I'm big into natural things. We want to make sure that we got our peppermint teas. We want to make sure we got our garlics. Even if you do want to buy over the counter, make sure you go and buy them. And we do, like I said, Band-Aids and those kinds of things. But I also want to make sure that we have plenty of natural remedies. It's things that we can grow here. Garlic is the big one for me. I'm a big garlic fan. It's good for infections, sinus infections, throat infections, ear infections. I actually believe skin infections. You cut yourself and you don't get an infection. So I'm just a big believer in it. My grandpa was a naturalist, and he taught me and my father a lot about vitamins and natural remedies. I'm big on cayenne. I haven't taken cayenne in a long time, but cayenne's good for helping you prevent getting a cold or flu. The problem I had with cayenne was it was starting to upset my stomach pretty bad. I would take 2 a day, and then it would upset my stomach, burn me. I'd have to drink some milk, and so I started taking 1, and it didn't really go away. So I'm just pretty sensitive to hot foods. If I felt like I was in a situation where, like I used to work in a shelter workshop, and we had a lot of disabled employees who didn't always have the best hygiene mindset. Colds went around pretty rampant around there, and I never got sick as long as I was on cayenne. My dad said one time, if you were stranded on a deserted island, what's the one thing that you would want? That's garlic. I would want garlic. Heat source. Of course, you know that we heat with wood, but if you don't heat with wood, and make sure that you have the ability to find heat. Propane is a good option. The problem with propane is prices vary so wildly. You want to get it in the summer months because in the winter it's going to go up. You could also get kerosene. Kerosene is a little bit more expensive, but it's always available. You can find it at Ace Hardware, just everywhere. And you can buy these little kerosene heaters. They're like, I don't know how much they are. 20 years ago, they were like $100. You can buy them at Ace. They sit in the middle of the room. You fill it up with kerosene. I liked them. But again, kerosene's pretty expensive because not many people use it. Make sure that you have cooking fire also. Living off grid, it's easy for me to just come out here in the woods. We can get some firewood, and we always have a stockpile of cooking fire. We got all that right there that she cooks with. We could use that. That's the firewood, but we could use it. And she's got her whole setup here of the ability to cook. She can use this as an oven, or she can take that off. Then she's got a rocket stove. One of the things that I've always wanted to talk about, and she brought it up in her videos, was have a good pair of shoes, 2 sets. I actually agree with her on this one quite a bit, but she said in case your shoes get wet, which I also agree with, but my shoes don't get wet. I have waterproof steel-toed boots. You can buy them at Walmart for like 50 bucks. These are in pretty bad shape already. I bought them last year. You can see that they're starting to fall apart. Shoestrings are the things that always go out with me, but I sealed it up with some shoe goo. But even at that, it was still waterproof with the damage to the crease there. And then there's steel toe. The reason I have steel toe is because I cut firewood, and if I ever came down on my toe with that chainsaw, I'd at least have a little chance of not getting cut. But I couldn't hardly live without waterproof shoes. My feet are always wet. Walking in the grass, spilling water on my shoes when I'm feeding the chickens, they're just always wet. So then I have a backup pair I just threw up in the attic. They're the same exact shoe. Got them up in the attic, ready for whenever. Make sure they got good tread on it, because in the winter time, you're going to be sliding all over the place. Last year I didn't have good tread on my shoes. I was just slid down the hill as soon as it snowed. Now Carolyn has 2 pairs. She has a waterproof shoe also, but it hurts her back when she walks on them. So she bought another boot that's not waterproof, and she wears those primarily. But then if she needs to go outside in the rain or the wet grass, she can put those waterproof shoes on. That way her feet stay dry. So I hope I can inspire you to prepare a little bit for your future. Thanks for watching.